To the third and final day of the Committee on Statistics 7 session. We are about to commence the session now. For delegates joining us here in the SCAP hall, may we request you to kindly take your seats now and put your mobile phones on silent mode. For those joining us via Kudo, the conferencing platform, we remind you once again that you will be able to access your microphone and camera only when your request to speak has been submitted and accepted on the platform. We also welcome all participants who are observing via YouTube. Thank you for your attention. Over to you, Chair.
Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. I hope you already received draft report of the 7th session of the Committee on Statistics, which was posted in English, Chinese, Russian, and French on the event webpage yesterday evening. I'd like to thank the Secretariat, in particular the translators who made actually extraordinary work, efforts to swiftly translate the document. This was done in response to concerns raised on the floor yesterday. I trust that this ensures that all delegates have the sufficient time to review this document. The link to the report is also available in the Kudo chat box. In case you can't access the report, please contact the Secretariat in the conference room or by email at chat.unescap@un.org. You may also enter message in Kudo chat box. We will start the day with agenda item 4C, transforming HR management to build statistical institutions in Asia and the Pacific region for the future, as presented to you in SCAP/CST/2020/5. Before we move on to today's deliberations, I would like to reiterate the ground rules once again for our discussions. Given a compressed schedule for this meeting, we ask for your support to tailor your interventions mainly to issues for discussion or action only, and keep your interventions to no more than 3 minutes. Also, I strongly urge delegations to keep interventions brief and focused. You will be already alerted by the Secretariat when your 3 minutes are up. Thank you for your attention. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Pravin Srivastava, Secretary cum Chief Statistician of India, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, representing India, to introduce the agenda item. India, please.
Thank you, Chair. I believe there's some problem with the video, but distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce agenda item 4C, which is on Seminar on Priority Issues, Transforming Human Resource Management to Build Statistical Institution in Asia and the Pacific for the Future. As per the annotated agenda for the session, we, the members of the committee, are, under this agenda item, invited to share our national progress and perspectives on transforming human resource management, specifically to provide advice on how regional cooperation may support and strengthen national efforts and priorities for global collaboration and cooperation, and consider and express its views on each of the opportunities for regional action to support national, regional, and global efforts. Next slide, please. Two consultations on the topic preceded today's session. First, the member states and associate members were invited to provide inputs through electronic consultations. I take the opportunity to sincerely thank the representatives from Armenia, Hong Kong, China, India, Indonesia, Republic of Korea, Japan, Pakistan, and Singapore who provided detailed and informative inputs. The preparation for today's session also benefited from a Stats Cafe webinar on human resource management to build statistical institutions. 70 participants and panelists from 19 countries attended the Stats Cafe and shared perspectives on efforts being made to improve human resource management, talent development, and skills development. Next slide, please. The inputs to the electronic consultation emphasize the potential benefits of regional collaboration on strengthening human resource management, its importance to the work of the committee. The inputs can be summarized as follows. The committee acknowledged the changing technological landscape in the production of statistics and the associated skill requirements, and recognized the efforts being put in place through development of training strategies with a focus on staff to acquire skills that are in line with the new technologies for the future. Second, the committee acknowledged the need for reforms in human resource management involving skills audits and developing on-the-job training programs that ensure staff acquire the necessary know-how to work effectively. Third bullet, the committee noted the various initiatives in strengthening staff skills such as e-learning programs, in-house training programs, talent identification, and development programs. Next bullet, the committee recognized that statistical institution strengthening should be a priority and feature in the work of the committee for the following reasons. The first is improving human resource management, improving skills development, and strengthening training institutions on official statistics is needed in a rapidly changing society. Second, there is a need to provide a platform for regional collaboration to address issues that affect the production and use of statistics in a rapidly changing environment. Third bullet, there is need to support training institutes in different countries and where feasible, establishment of regional training centers in the form of training infrastructure and development of training programs to address skill gaps of the region in line with the needs of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Next slide, please. Based on the advance inputs received, I propose the following draft decision. This proposal is naturally subject to revision based on interventions today by you, my fellow members of the committee. The first decision is the committee decides that the strengthening of statistical institutions, including improving training infrastructure and the development of training programs to address regional skills gaps in line with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development should be made a priority, be featured in its future work. The second decision is the committee requests the Bureau to propose in consultation with the Secretariat modalities to that end for review and approval by the committee while bearing in mind the need to stay within existing regular budget resources. Let me reiterate that the proposal is based on input from only 8 members of the committee and discussions at the Stats Cafe webinar, and as such is subject to revision and amendments based on our deliberations today. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes my introduction to agenda item 4C. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Srivastava. I now hand over to the Secretariat to facilitate further discussions on this agenda item. Given the special circumstances of this seventh session, may I also ask for the Secretariat assistance with managing comments on agenda item 4C and sharing a summary of this discussion. I'd like to remind all delegations to keep their interventions to no more than 3 minutes. Now, before giving the floor to Mr. Ashish Kumar, allow me use this opportunity to extend my sincere congratulations on the occasion of 50 years of statistical capacity building by UN Statistical Institute for Asia and the Pacific, and wish you all the success in your future endeavor. Geostat highly appreciates the existing productive cooperation with CF and stands ready to further develop this strong partnership for these years to come. Mr. Ashish Kumar, you have the floor, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank the chair for congratulating SIAP for its 50th year of anniversary. And I also look forward to closer collaboration from all the member states and associate member states of ESCAP region, including Georgia. The proposed decision of the committee focuses on the strengthening of statistical institutions. This gives special emphasis on improving human resource management, improving training infrastructure, and development of training programs for bridging the capacity gap in national statistical offices for meeting the data and statistics requirement for implementation of Agenda 2030. Electronic consultations has indicated that there are 3 key elements for building of statistical institutions. The first one is improved human resource management practices. This includes identification, promotion, and retention of talent and creation of an environment to promote innovation. The second element is capacity building of personnel in the system, which has 2 parts. This is required both in use of latest technology and new data sources, often referred as big data, and development of soft skills like effective communication, leadership, managerial skills, etc. Another thing is, it is also important to recognize various modes of training needed to develop required skills amongst the statisticians and its recognition. The third element is building of statistical training institutions. These play a very important role in overall statistical institution building. These training institutions need support from outside, like international expert agencies, both global and regional. The 2 training institutional networks, GIST and the coordination of statistical in Asia and statistical institutions in Asia and the Pacific, can support the training institutions. We have 4 discussants with us to discuss these issues. I now request Dr. Dennis Mapa, Chief Statistician of Philippines, to discuss the issue of improved human resource management practices to improve effectiveness and efficiency of national statistical systems, especially talent management, including talent retention and creation of environment for innovation. Dr. Mapa, please, you have 5 minutes to make your point.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the Philippines, through the Philippine Statistics Authority, is pleased to share some of the country's human resources management practices to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the Philippine statistical system with respect to talent management, including talent retention and the creation of culture of innovation. Allow me to share some initiatives in this direction from the Philippine Statistical Research and Training Institute and the Philippine Statistics Authority. In 2013, by virtue of the reorganization and strengthening of the Philippine statistical system, the Philippine Statistical Research and Training Institute was established to develop a comprehensive and integrated research and training program on the theories, concepts, and methodologies for the promotion of the Philippine statistical system. In pursuit of its mandate as the statistical training arm of the Philippine statistical system, the PSRTI has conducted a cumulative total of 285 training programs during the period 2016 to 2019, upgrading the knowledge and skills of a total of 7,533 participants from both statistical and non-statistical government agencies. Since 2018, the PSRTI has been working on an integrated framework on statistical capacity development, which covers human resources development to be more responsive to the prevailing and emerging challenges such as the Sustainable Development Goals, big data, and citizen-generated data. Various statistical units and positions are also being created in other national government agencies as well as in local government agencies for efficient data collection, processing, and analytics. Related to this effort, the training and certification program for data collectors is also being developed and implemented to ensure a pool of trained personnel during field activities. Under its medium-term plan, the PSRTI also plans to expand its operation by establishing satellite offices to coordinate with different regions and provinces of the country. To address the technological aspect of innovation, the PSRTI is also developing new training modules utilizing modern technology and equipment on data collection, processing, analytics, and dissemination. On the other hand, the Philippine Statistics Authority is pursuing several initiatives built upon its most valuable asset, its human resources. In the process of hiring regular staff, it adopts the competency-based interview and trade tests to improve the accuracy in assessing a candidate's fitness for a certain position. The management recognizes that hiring and retaining the best employees lay the foundation in developing high-performing, competent, and credible civil servants. To ensure and support long-term organizational planning for the Philippine Statistics Authority, a succession plan is being formulated to ensure the development of key personnel and that more experienced and capable employees are prepared to assume leadership roles. Likewise, the Philippine Statistics Authority is embarking on a competency-based learning and development system to facilitate a focused training and development plan and to prepare interventions for employees' growth. The initiative aims to prepare a competency-based learning and training curriculum to help in the individual career planning. The Philippine Statistics Authority continuously supports the capacity building needs of its employees. It ensures that the staff are sent to training courses at the local and international arena on core statistical topics like the systems of national accounts, civil registration, economic and social statistics, censuses, to name a few. Likewise, of increasing concern to the Philippine Statistics Authority is the attendance to various fora covering new development agenda like the Sustainable Development Goals, big data, dissemination tools, non-traditional data collection, administrative data, and the like. In fact, since 2017, the Philippine Statistics Authority has participated in 178 training courses organized by international organizations and has capacitated a total of 329 staff. Participation in these fora and trainings lead to improvement of skills, knowledge, networking, as well as motivation and confidence. Lastly, the Philippine Statistics Authority is building a culture of innovation. It began with an innovation summit held in 2019, which becomes a regular activity to highlight innovative ideas developed by the Philippine Statistics Authority workforce. Specifically, it highlighted the following: new initiative on civil registration and administrative services, experience in developing and delivering innovative statistical products and services, and findings on innovative statistical research and project and methodology. The Philippine Statistics Authority firmly, strongly believes that its human resources is an indispensable factor in its pursuit to become a solid, responsive, and world-class authority on quality statistics and civil registration. Good morning, and back to you, Mr. Chair.
Ashish, back to you.
Yes, I got it. I got it. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Mapa, for your well-considered views on the issue of talent management and promotion of innovation in national statistical system. I now request Dr. Ashkan Shabak, Head Statistics Research and Training Center, Statistics Center of Iran, to address the issue of expanding domains of statistical capacity building, both in use of latest technology and data sources, including big data, and soft skill development through partnership with academia and other specialized agencies. Dr. Shabak, please, you have 5 minutes to make your point.
Thank you, Ashish. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. Today, the modernization of official statistics is a major necessity for all statistical systems. The most important component of this subject is first the modernization of the National Statistics Office, and then activities and coordination that NSO takes to modernize other elements of national statistical systems. One of the most important subjects in concepts of modernizing official statistics is use of new data sources for producing statistics. New data sources include administrative data, big data, web data, and also open data. Applying of these data source for producing and dissemination of official statistics requires capacity building and the creation of appropriate contexts and infrastructures such as statistical acts and technical facilities. In this issue, there are two other important subjects that should not be forgotten. One is appropriate NSO organizational structure, and other one is a specialized and trained human resource. To provide both of these important subjects, it is very important to communicate with academic and scientific communities. Basically, after politicians, one of the most important stakeholders of the NSS are researchers and scientists. The main areas of cooperation between NSO and academics can be summarized as follows. Establishment of an advisory committee in international statistical organization. It is one of the recommendation of international statistical organization. This committee plays a prominent role of organizing relationship between the academics and NSO. It is even mentioned in some international existing template for statistical acts. Another issue is provide the data needed by academics. Researchers and scientists are the main user of one of the main user of statistical system products. In the meantime, they also need microdata and it must be provided for them. So the principle of confidentiality must interpreted in terms of a statistical research purpose through strong agreements by obtaining guarantees to ensure the confidentiality of information. Another issue is conducting joint studies and research in all statistical fields, especially in new methods for producing and dissemination of statistics. Another issue is holding joint workshops, especially in the field of applying data science in official statistics. And the last one is conducting interviews and preparing appropriate reports and analyses on the statistical products by academics to improve the level of society's statistical literacy and increase the social capital of NSS. It's worth mentioning that the issue of redesigning the organizational structure of NSO is very important to cover the above issues. Obviously, without a proper organizational structure, professional and trained staffs will be less efficient and will suffer from burnout. It should be mentioned that the activities in NSOs is such that seems the proper organizational structure for it is process-oriented structure. Another important, the last issue that emerged for the use of the new data source, especially big data or administrative data, is how to manage data exchange within the government in the era of data revolution and data governance. In fact, integrating all information systems and databases with the country is the main issue here. In this regard, monitoring and coordination of data exchange to properly govern the country and the role of NSO in it is needed to be clarified and well explained. The question that here arises is whether the NSO is responsible for all data exchange within the country or not. This is the question that should be answered by national statistical system and international organization. Thank you. Back to Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Shabak, for your insightful views on need for expanding the scope of capacity development, including increased availability and use of microdata, conduct of joint study projects, organize joint workshops in identified fields, and promote statistical literacy in community through dissemination of information, including carrying out relevant statistical analysis. Thank you once again. The third discussant on the item is Ms. Aishat Shauda, Chief Statistician from Maldives. I would request Ms. Auda to address the issue of promotion of skills development amongst statisticians through various modes of learning and also recognition of this learning for career development. Ms. Shauda, please, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish. Actually, based on the experience of the National Bureau of Statistics and myself during this time of my engagement, I would like to just share with you some ideas that we feel are very relevant to the countries like Maldives. So like one approach that can make skills development training more effective and sustainable can be by providing opportunities for staff that so that they can get acquired with the required skills like basic, intermediate, and advanced levels, and it should be available on a continuous basis during the employment. And these trainings need to be tied to benefit packages so that it will give an incentive and for the promotion so that people will be following these courses. And entry-level staff can then be assessed in terms of the required skill sets needed to perform the tasks for the post. Options to require skills for the required skills over a set period of time can be like made conditional for staff to be made permanent. In the case of NBS Maldives, we have been studying the UNCF's document on this core skills framework for statisticians and ICT statisticians of NSOs in the developing countries. And we were trying to design a statistical cadre for the national statistical system so that we recognize the professions of statistics in the official arena. And this is an important skills acquired on the job, short-term training courses of CEP and other international agencies, which we rely heavily on. It does not actually count as a career advancement in the civil service of the Maldives. Academic qualifications such as degrees are more counted. So the graduate level trainings in statistics is still not offered in our universities in the Maldives. And short-term training, CEP trainings and other international trainings provided, we feel that if we can package it in such a way to provide internationally recognized certification by following through from like certificate to diploma to advanced diploma level, degree and master's level in applied statistics, it can help address these type of issues in smaller countries like Maldives. And I feel that maybe CEP can support this in partnership with the universities. It will give staff an incentive to serve the statistical office for a longer period and also make the NSO a learning organization for staff in acquiring skills and reskilling throughout their career. The economic statistics training that was developed and piloted in the Maldives under the ESCAPE regional program on economic statistics used this type of approach, like development of training materials, training of our NSO subject matter staff as trainers, and also assessing them in the delivery process, which we found very useful at the Statistics Bureau. Skills development, as we all know, requires learning by doing and using real data in practice, and applying this knowledge helps in mastering these skills. And providing those skills to others help build confidence and retain the acquired skills. So these are some of the things that we have been, we have some ideas and what we are in the plans of progressing in the case of Maldives. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Ms. Shahuda, for your very useful suggestions for continuing training programs for the staff members, of improving statistical training, of building statistical institutions. The fourth and the final discussant for the item is Mr. Akiro Sumura, Director, International Affairs in the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communication, Government of Japan. He will address the issue of statistical institution building through the support of training networks, both GIST and NCSTAP, that Asia Pacific network. Mr. Sumura, please, in 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Kamau. Good afternoon. As Mr. Chino said in the webinar on Monday, a combination of face-to-face and e-learning is still important for future courses at statistical training institutions. Although the United Nations has developed a portal site for e-learning on the SDGs, most of the courses are basically self-paced learning courses. In this difficult situation with COVID-19, I believe that interactive e-learning courses are what governments need. Although there are some issues to overcome, such as time differences, internet connection gaps, and variances in initial level, I hope that GIST and the Network for the Coordination of Statistical Training in Asia and Pacific will cooperate to coordinate lecturers and participants for interactive courses. As a member of the GIST advisory group, Japan previously suggested that it would be effective to enhance introductory e-learning courses on the SDG indicators and their framework. However, considering the impact of COVID-19 and the complicated situation, there is a need to provide more segmented courses with interactive dialogue between lecturers and participants. Although the various distance learning initiatives are being undertaken by many universities these days, statistical training institutions are required to deliver more than what universities offer. Statistical training institutes should cultivate practical knowledge and flexible thinking skills. To this end, it is desirable for GIST and the Network for the Coordination of Statistical Training in Asia and the Pacific to cooperatively support new initiatives. Furthermore, it is also important to give officials an awareness that they belong to a professional community. The deeper we become involved in issues that are likely to be on the political agenda, such as the SDGs, the more pressure there is to obtain the desired results. While involvement in the prestigious agenda is honored as an official, it is important to be careful not to create meaningless reports with conclusions beyond the scope of the data, no matter how much those at the top may request such conclusions. In addition, unreliable data, sometimes including misinterpreted official statistics, are circulating on the internet every day. We need to learn how to disseminate official statistics so that their results do not mislead the world. While it is desirable to eradicate incorrect information and replace it with correct information, the risk of conflict with freedom of speech makes it necessary to take careful measures. I think that the wisdom of the statistical community and awareness of their own membership within it will help officials in this difficult situation. I believe that face-to-face courses are the best way to strengthen the unity of the statistical community. However, until face-to-face courses can be resumed, I hope that interactive e-learning courses will offer better experiences to strengthen the statistical community than self-paced learning courses, and that GIST and the Network for the Coordination of Statistical Training in Asia and Pacific will support the development of these courses. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sumura, for your very useful contribution to the discussion on the issue of building statistical institutions. I once again thank all the discussants of the agenda item 4C and supporting of the proposed decision of the Committee on Statistics. And I request the Secretary of the Committee, Ms. Sharita Rao, to take over and facilitate the discussion. Considering internet connectivity issues, I would request Ms. Rike Munk Hansen, who is available in the conference hall, to summarize the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Over to Ms. Sharita.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, as requested by the chair, I now invite any comments on agenda item 4C from the floor. To maintain order and for delegations to be ready to take the floor when I call the speaker, I will also announce a delegation next in line. The first speaker on my list for this agenda item is a distinguished delegate of Indonesia, followed by China. Distinguished delegate of Indonesia, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving me the floor. I would like to comment for Agenda 4C about transforming human resources to build NSO in BPS Statistik Indonesia for the future. I would like to highlight some issues that presently Indonesia human resources policy through transformation program have been rolled out at the national level, such as simplifying the bureaucracy competency based in our human resources management and human resources merit system. BPS Statistik Indonesia is also committed to escalate its function through a comprehensive corporate transformation program. We call it StatCap Cerdas. This is have three pillars, such as business process transformation, IT transformation, and organization and human resources transformation. Business process transformation as a leading component has been produced several concepts that change the working culture as well as the use of the technology and human resources capability needed. The organization has transformed from a structural body into a functional shape. The program is expected to be completed by the end of 2020, and it still runs gradually along with the finishing process on the job design and the human capital development plan requirement. Starting from the specified space, job design, and the mapping become the key success in the human resources planning. It will imply on what the kind of capability so that the organization need the action that need to be taken to fulfill the gap. BPS Polytechnic of Statistics, we call it the STAS, also has been functioned as an incubator for the knowledge excellence, especially for statisticians. And also, BPS Education and Training Center becomes a knowledge catalyst in the disseminating the statistical capabilities to other institutions in Indonesia. And also, our Education and Training Center accept training participants from the UNESCO member state. For example, for some topics such as big data training that has been held in several times. There's also some issue concerning the recently that the technology has taken over many functions which have also significantly changed the work culture. However, the acceleration of the human resources learning process are not equal with the growth of advanced. So do we bridge the culture gap, and what approach that can be equalize technology capabilities? This is also as a challenges issues. And also,
Distinguished Delegate of Indonesia, could you kindly wrap up your intervention?
Okay, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Distinguished Delegate of Indonesia. China, you have the floor, followed by Bangladesh.
Dear Mr. Chair, all the distinguished guests, I would like to share several points of my thinking. Some suggestions concerning the statistic development. We hold some international conferences to provide a space of learning and also a platform for communication among the member states. And also the second point is very meaningful and important that the Statistic Education Center of China, as the founding member, joined the International Statistic Network and provide updated training information. Recently, in recent years, the center has hosted several hundred seminars and workshops in this region and play a very active role in the construction of international statistic community. And also we participate the CEAP remote training programs, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. We believe the remote training has played a very important role. Thirdly, we suggest the network of Asia-Pacific statistic communities can open and share more database to the member states, including the related courses, training material, and also the information about of the instructors, so that we can promote, we can call more patients from the member states to participate. And these are the 3 points I would like to make. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of China. Bangladesh, you have the floor, followed by the distinguished delegate of Pakistan. Distinguished delegate of Bangladesh, we don't hear you. Could you unmute yourself, please? Distinguished delegate of Bangladesh, we still don't hear you. I think we may need to return to Bangladesh. May I now invite the distinguished delegate of Pakistan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone, and a very good morning. Human resource development is more important than the development itself, as the skilled human resource can work for the better development in the field of statistics. If human resource is not competent and modernized according to the current needs, they will not be able to produce need-based statistics. The regional cooperation can support and strengthen national efforts and priorities of the countries for global collaboration and cooperation to meet the needs of 2030 agenda. The document on Agenda 4C presented the efforts made by regional global skill development efforts, which are appreciated. These efforts are helpful for national statistical system to strengthen them to provide need-based statistics for Agenda of 2030. These actions include handbook on management and organization, thematic conferences, regional initiatives, global initiatives, and country initiatives by various organizations. Although many regional training institutes have played important role by SIAP, but SIAP played vital role for the development of human resource in the field of applied statistics in the real life. The regional countries having training institutes must strengthen their institutes through capacity building of their own staff, applying training of trainers model. In addition to SIAP, training courses must be introduced in all other regional institutions so that every statistical practitioner could get training opportunities for improvement. The induction courses are usually not arranged for new entrants in the national statistical systems. These courses must be started in all the countries. Trainings on new topics may also be arranged at all the institutions in the countries, like how to use new concepts of big data, use of social media to increase the statistical literacy, digital transformation to generate timely and reliable statistics, etc. I would like to highlight that Pakistan Bureau of Statistics has training wing to produce trainings to the statistical practitioners in the country. Training wing has trained 1,159 statistical practitioners in the country during the last 7 years. Internship programs have also been introduced in Pakistan with the universities since 2005, and we have conducted regular annual internship programs for the students of BS and MS levels. The training wing, we have a plan to convert the training wing into statistical training and research institute in coming years. It is also pertinent to mention that Pakistan Bureau of Statistics has adopted digital transformation, and they are providing training and guidance to the provincial bureaus in this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Pakistan. Distinguished delegate of Bangladesh, would you like to try to take the floor again?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. We all are concerned that to ensure the quality of official statistics, skilled human resources is the lifeblood of the national statistics system.
Distinguished
Bangladesh Bureau
delegate
of
of
Statistics.
Bangladesh, there is an echo. Do you have other devices connected to Kudo at the same time? Okay, we will have to return to the distinguished delegate of Bangladesh. May I now invite the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation to take the floor, followed by Cambodia.
Chairman, thank you for giving me the floor. Russia sees great importance in the development of human resources in the NSOs of this region in particular to deal with the new challenges in the field of statistics. So we highly appreciate the work of the Commission in promoting the work of countries in the region. And in particular, we wish to commend the CIAP institution. Our initiative was put forward in terms of creating an international resource center for capacity building in the field of statistics. We are working on the development of a database, and in this connection, we expect to see a greater number of training programs available for Russian-speaking publics, not only in Russian, of course. We shall also be producing our educational material in English, and we shall be attracting the best international experts. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation. May I now invite Cambodia, followed by Malaysia. Distinguished delegate of Cambodia, we do not hear you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Cambodia would like to express strongly support and recognize transformative human resource management.
Distinguished delegate of Cambodia, the audio quality is very poor. Would you like to try releasing your microphone and submitting a request to speak again, and we'll come back to you? Thank you. May I now invite the distinguished delegate of Malaysia, followed by Singapore.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Malaysia acknowledges and strongly supports the national, regional, and global efforts on human resource management and skills development, especially for the regular monitoring and updating of the Handbook on Management and Organization of the National Statistical System. And Malaysia is committed to participate in the development of this handbook. Empowering talents and enhancing the competence and expertise of the personnel have always been the key focus in planning human resources development at DOSM Malaysia. And this includes increasing existing expertise, exploring new statistical fields, and creation of subject matter experts so that DOSM officers become highly knowledgeable, efficient, creative, and innovative with integrity and proficient in core subjects. The strong partnership and collaboration with regional and international statistical bodies is a stronger foundation for DOSM to achieve and produce the high quality, integrity, and reliable statistics. To enhance coordination and cooperation among international statistics, DOSM actively participates in expert groups, meeting, and training programs organized at the international level. DOSM would like to suggest the scope of the training curriculum needs to be expanded in line with the current environment demands and meet the global agenda, especially within the SDGs, big data, and the fourth industrial revolution, geospatial, and so on. We would like to suggest the Institute to venture into new areas such as the big data analytics so that this can assist countries to highlight the insights of their socio-economic scenario, and this will provide better feedback to our stakeholders. Another new areas that can be offered is especially the data collection methods. We face challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic, such as using advanced technology such as crowdsourcing, web or internet panel survey, combination of web panel and traditional survey, web scraping, and market intelligence. This can be used as other methods of data collection, and so as that we can continue to provide the relevant official statistics for our policymakers and other users. Thirdly is to build on the well-established regional country cooperation that will provide us a good opportunity to exchange ideas, knowledge, and experiences to modernize our national statistical system and develop new approaches to strengthen our roles to produce high quality of official statistics. As well as the next one is to develop the curriculum of the training to focus on the initiative to strengthen and improve the capacity of statisticians to produce and conduct analytical research, as well as to applying statistical techniques on the social and economic microdata. Next one is to conduct the necessary training survey and assessment at least once every 2 years to ensure that statistical needs and capacities of the countries are identified based on the international framework and global development agenda. Therefore, we can update our curriculum and training programs to meet such the needs at that current time. Lastly, Malaysia would like to suggest to continue the training activities such as on modernization or statistical business process, improving quality of secondary data, and enhancing statistician skills facing the data revolution, where most of the countries still require capacity building in these areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Malaysia. Singapore, you have the floor, followed by India.
Good morning. In line with the points raised by the chair and the discussants, Singapore Department of Statistics recognized that human capital is a critical success factor for the work of the National Statistical Office and producing reliable and timely official statistics. We are committed to the development of our statisticians. Skills needs analysis is performed regularly to identify potential gaps and new areas of development to inform hiring programs and development. We also tap on the international and regional training and forums like SIAP to develop subject matter expertise in domains such as economic, prices, and demographic statistics, as well as new areas on leveraging on technology to handle wider sources and greater volume of data in our digitalized world. A new area is how to support staff in their development in the midst of a pandemic. This poses new challenges for NSOs as it requires adaptations to the physical workspace. For example, with safe distancing measures and working from home over prolonged periods of time requires HR to relook how to onboard and train new staff, besides coaching and engaging existing staff. This could be an area where SIAP could offer advice and support to members. This new normal situation also offers opportunities. This includes expediting the adoption of e-learning and expanding the reach of regional and international platforms via webinars to a larger audience. Just like this 7th session of the ESCAP meeting shows, it enables more participants to attend the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Singapore. India, you have the floor, followed by the Maldives.
Thank you, Chair. We like to second the view that human resource in a statistical system is the most vital resource, and without that, the statistical system cannot function. And in this slide, as I have mentioned in my earlier interventions, the SDGs and the pandemic has thrown up a huge amount of pressure on the national statistical systems for producing more and more data, and in a very timely and a very quick way, so that you can take corrective action. So as I have proposed also in the GIST platform, that we not only need to do a skill enhancement, but we should also do a skill mapping of various competencies, so that the career progression of a statistician from the beginning of his career to a specialized area is also mapped. And for this, we had requested CIAP and the ITC Turin to look at how we can do a proper skill mapping with various competencies. India too has been taking this big leap in terms of trying to map the skills. Given the fact that the demands on the national statistical systems are going to be huge, we do have to resort to outsourcing. And outsourcing would mean competencies available not within the NSO alone, but even in the market. So grooming and developing the market for being able to take up these statistical activities with full professionalism has to be factored in. We have also partnered with a large number of leading technological institutions so that we can leapfrog, take the quantum jump for adopting new technologies, because it's not only identifying alternate data sources, it's also looking at how quickly can they be mainstream into the national system. And that statistical system will become robust when you take the integrated approach. We do have been talking about not only the statistical competencies, but nowadays management of statistical operations requires different set of skill sets, which Director CIAP, Dr. Ashish also mentioned. It's not only soft skills, managerial skills, communication skills, because you need to engage with the users and be able to manage the operation so that you are more relevant, you remain relevant for the system. We too have, India has also looked at nurturing the innovation in new techniques, and which will hone the skills of the existing statistical personnel and maybe incubate things. So this is broadly what I had to say, but we support the suggestions given by other countries. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of India. It looks like we have lost the connection with Maldives. So may I invite the distinguished delegate of Japan to take the floor, please?
So we have network meeting of the for the coordination of statistical training in Asia and the Pacific every year with the governing council for the CIAP. So we can arrange we have the opportunity to arrange the those meeting of the governments, I believe, and this also can offer other opportunities for arrangement for the especially about different languages, I believe. So probably those networks can work, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Japan. Distinguished delegate of Bangladesh, you have the floor. Distinguished Delegate of Bangladesh, you are muted. Could you unmute yourself, please? Distinguished Delegate of Bangladesh, we do not hear you. Could you unmute yourself? Okay, maybe we need to come back to Bangladesh. Would any other delegations like to raise any matters on this agenda item at this time? Cambodia and Maldives have not re-established their connection, so we don't have them on the list right now. But would any other delegations like to raise any matters on this agenda item? I see Maldives on the list now. Distinguished Delegate of the Maldives, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Actually, from the Maldives, we are very much in agreement with a lot of suggestions that have been given by the delegations. And I would like to highlight the many issues that we have been trying to resolve at the regional level. At the SAC also, we have this SAC statistics heads of agencies and also SAC training center established in India. Same goes for OIC Statistics Commission. So there are various institutions that maybe we should try to collaborate. Further, one of the issues that we find is if we have to travel to attend the training, then the budget is not there. So that's why the opportunities are gone for, in the case of the countries where we don't have the budget available for the training. So that's why the more importance for this online training. And the collaborations that we had with the South-South cooperation with Sri Lanka also, that same thing happened. Although they have the training institutions, we need the budget and the costs to travel and attend these trainings. So that is something that I think very important, and we tend to rely on external consultants, and that is also like requires a lot of projects funds that we get for statistics development. Thank you. I think this online training thing is really will help a lot to some extent, the blended form. Thank you.
Thank you, Distinguished Delegate of the Maldives. Cambodia, you have the floor.
To build statistical institution for the future. We acknowledge that statistical capacity development will continue to be highly reliant and external input of technical assistance and have to be coordinated to meet the overall objectives of development of the capacity of the national statistical system. The key component of statistical capacity building is training. But even more than the provision of formal training is the use of on-the-job training or mentoring or coaching, where the staff work alongside an expert and learn by doing. This type of arrangement can provide a valuable learning experience for statistical staff, but it needs to be well structured so that the staff themselves do all the hands-on work and the expert merely advise. It is important for the national statistical system user development partner to rely that there is a short-term trade-off between capacity building and timeliness of statistical output. Learning on the job requires and institutions by all parties. If a quick output is desired, then technical assistance can be employed, but there will be very little lasting benefit to the statistical service in terms of building capacity. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Cambodia. Unfortunately, the audio quality was very poor and we haven't really been able to capture your intervention. So I strongly encourage you to submit your intervention to us in writing and we will display the email address for that very soon. Thank you. Distinguished delegate of Bangladesh, would you like to try again?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. We all are concerned that to ensure the quality of official statistics, skilled human resources is the lifeblood of the national statistics system. Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics took some remarkable initiatives to ensure skilled manpower at all levels. New recruitment processes are underway, though it is slightly disturbed for COVID-19. About 1,300 young staff is going to be recruited from the university graduates in the relevant fields. This will help to strengthen the National Statistics Office to ensure a firm data support for the country. BBS has taken some progress in skill development and capacity building of the staff members of BBS. Even during the COVID-19 situation, BBS continuing virtual capacity building and e-learning courses for the officials. The process of establishing Bangladesh Institute of Statistics and Research has got a new dimension, as Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has allocated site this year. A new organogram for the institute is under development. All these initiatives will help to enhance the capacity of the national statistics system. Bangladesh is expecting capacity building support from the global community and very keen to share the knowledge through strong and effective partnerships. We hope UNCF will take necessary actions to support the national statistics system of Bangladesh by arranging more e-learning training programs and after the COVID-19 situation, as early as possible to arrange more face-to-face training regarding recent issues like big data, accounting integrated statistics, and analysis. ESCAP can also arrange more seminar workshops to share the country experiences in the recent challenges of statistics. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Bangladesh. Would any other delegations like to take the floor on agenda item 4C at this time? I see no further requests to speak from delegations, so may I now invite the representative of the United Nations Statistics Division to take the floor.
Good morning. Thank you. I would like to make a few comments showing the reactions of UNSD to the report that has been submitted to the meeting. UNSD appreciates that the report provides a very good overview of the facilities, mechanisms, and processes in place at the regional and international level. UNSD appreciates that the report highlights the handbook on management and organization of national statistical systems. In this regard, we can confirm that the full version of the handbook will be submitted to the 52nd session of the Statistical Commission in March 2021 and will become available on the internet before that time. We can also confirm that the handbook will have a dedicated chapter on human resources management and development, which contains sections on the staff composition of a national statistical office, human resources policies, recruitment, learning and development, job rotation, staff retention, and the role of the chief statistician. An updated version of that chapter will be available in a few weeks on the wiki page, and the advisory group with Mongolia, the Philippines, the Asian Development Bank, and ESCAP representing the region will be further consulted. UNSC further appreciates the reference to the regional thematic conferences, which are targeted to discussions with chief statisticians and cover the various topics of the updated handbook. In this regard, UNSD would like to thank the Asian Development Bank for its support and for hosting the Asian Thematic Conference in February 2021 in Manila. UNSD can confirm that a thematic conference for Southeast and Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, and Central Asia is in preparation and is scheduled to be held in Uzbekistan in November of 2020. UNSD can also confirm that preparations for a thematic conference for the Pacific are continuing and that the new date will be scheduled for 2021. Finally, UNSD would like to highlight the initiatives of the task team on training, competencies, and capacity development under the UN Global Working Group on Big Data for Official Statistics. With respect to modernization and the use of big data, this task team developed a competency framework which lists all competencies needed for a statistical institute to succeed in the application of big data and advanced technologies, covering all stages of data use and including skills beyond the technical domain. The task team also developed a maturity matrix, which can be used for self-assessment by statistical institutes to evaluate where gaps exist in skill sets and jobs with respect to the use of big data and where training or recruitment are needed. The task team is now in the process of setting up, together with the other task teams of the Global Working Group, a global training program in the use of big data for official statistics, covering various aspects of the use of big data and the application in official statistics. Thank you.
Thank you for that intervention from the United Nations Statistics Division. I do not see any further requests to speak at this point in time. So as requested by the chair, may I now invite my colleague, Ms. Ricky Monk-Hansen from the Secretariat to share a summary of discussions on agenda item 4C.
Thank you very much, Sharita, and thank you to the many delegations who spoke on this agenda item. The committee, noting that human resources is the most vital resource in national statistical systems, stressed the importance of human resources management transformation as part of broader transformations of national statistical systems to address the demands and challenges arising from the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, as well as more recent from the COVID-19 pandemic. The committee noted to address the challenges, it is necessary to expand the scope of statistical training to support digital transformations and other recent developments. Scope to address SDG-related statistics, big data for official statistics, new data collection measures, methods, new statistical business processes, more analytical research, management of microdata, as well as skills related to management, communication, and innovation, and expanded outreach and partnerships with statistics users would be required to make sure that the required skills are developed. The committee also noted that for full institutional transformation, not only skills but also cultural changes are necessary to promote innovation, limit bureaucracy, manage talent, and support staff development by linking training and skills development to promotion and career advancement. The committee also noted the need to make more training available in other languages than English, including the Russian language. The committee stressed the need to continue to strengthen national statistical training institutions to enable skills development at national and provincial levels. The committee in this regard also appreciated efforts by several countries to open up their national trainings to other countries and establish new national, regional and global training centers. Meanwhile, or nonetheless, the committee stressed the importance of continued and expanded remote training opportunities, considering the resource requirements for physical presence at international training events in person. The committee acknowledged the work by the regional Asia-Pacific CEOP network of training institutions and the global network of training institutions, GIST, expressed their continued support to their activities, including the Handbook of National Statistical Systems, and encourage more sharing of information, including materials and calendars, to maximize the efforts of the networks. The committee expressed its particular support to CEOP, including the many efforts CEOP have conducted during the past several decades to develop skills and develop training institutions in the region, and in that regard also suggested CEOP may wish to support human resource development, in particular in response to the challenges presented by the current COVID-19 pandemic. Finally, the committee decided that strengthening of statistical institutions, training of trainers, strengthening of statistical infrastructure and the development of training programs to address regional skills gap in line with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and COVID-19 response should be made a priority and featured in its future work. And the committee in that regard requests the Bureau to propose in consultation with the Secretariat modalities to that end for review and approval by the committee, while bearing in mind the need to stay within existing regular budget resources. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, back to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Serra and Mrs. Hansen. This actually brings us to the conclusion of discussions on the agenda 4C. But before we move to agenda item 6, I would like to give the floor to the Secretariat for an announcement, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the Secretariat would like to bring to your attention the questionnaire about the relevance and effectiveness of the 7th session of the Committee on Statistics. Your inputs will be valuable for the Secretariat to understand what can be improved in future sessions. The questionnaire is available online at the link displayed on the screen, and the Secretariat will also send the link to you by email after this session. May we kindly request you to complete and return one consolidated response for your delegation by Friday, the 4th of September. In addition to that, I would also like to kindly remind you to submit all your interventions in writing to the email address displayed on the screen, which would be very helpful for us to capture your interventions in the chair's summary, as well as to post it on the committee webpage. Thank you for your attention. Mr. Chair, back to you.
Thank you very much. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, let us now turn to agenda item 6A, 6B, and C, reports brought to the attention of the committee as presented to you in ESCAP/EST/2020/INF/12 ESCAP/CST 2020/INF /13, ESCAP/75/21, and ESCAP/76/22. I remind all delegates these papers are provided for noting only. Can I now invite the Dr. Annette Sach Robertson, Deputy Regional Director, UNFPA, and co-chair of the Regional Coordination Mechanism Thematic Working Group on Statistics, to introduce agenda item 6.
Annette, you have the floor. You are probably on mute. Could you unmute yourself?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce agenda item 6, reports brought to the attention of the committee. First slide, please. Under agenda item 6, the committee is invited to note, firstly, the work carried out by the Bureau of the committee since its 6th session. Secondly, the reports of the Governing Council of the Statistical Institute for Asia and the Pacific on its 14th and 15th session. And thirdly, on the work of the Thematic Working Group on Statistics of the Asia-Pacific Regional Coordination Mechanism, including work in support of the Secretary General's Regional Reform Phase 2 recommendation for a change management process for data and statistics. Next slide, please. The Bureau undertook work in follow-up to the decisions and recommendations of the committee at its 6th session related to the declaration of navigating policy with data to leave no one behind, interagency and expert group on sustainable development goal indicators, and the high-level group for partnership coordination and capacity building for statistics for the 2030 agenda, communities of practice, economic statistics, disaster-related statistics, policy data integration, thematic working group on statistics, deliberations at the United Nations Statistical Commission, World Statistics Congress, and preparations for the 7th session of the committee. Next slide, please. The focus of the 14th session of the Governing Council of SIA was the foreseen lack of several staff members at the beginning of 2019 and the necessity to modify the work program and financial plan for 2019 due to the lack of staffing. The focus of the 15th session of the Governing Council of SIA was the independent evaluation of the Institute, the finalization of its 2020 to 2024 strategic plan, and the celebration of the Institute's 50th anniversary. Next slide, please. The main events of the Thematic Working Group on Statistics during the periods since the 6th session of the committee have been related to, firstly, the Secretary General reforms of the United Nations Development System to improve the coordination of capacity building activities, and secondly, related to responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. In the context of the reform of the United Nations Development System at the regional level, the Thematic Working Group has agreed to, firstly, consolidate reporting on progress towards the 2030 Agenda in Asia-Pacific Sustainable Development Goal Progress Report. Secondly, to consolidate access to data and statistics on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in the Asia-Pacific Sustainable Development Goal Gateway. And thirdly, to regularly map and share national capacity building plans to foster coordination, collaboration, and to minimize duplication. In the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, the thematic working group compiled a snapshot of data and statistical resources developed by the international statistical community and shared it with the United Nations resident coordinator and the United Nations country teams. The COVID-19 pandemic also brought forward plans for common tools and knowledge products to provide support and to respond to questions raised by national statistical institutions and other partners. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Robertson, for your introduction. I now invite any comments on agenda item 6A, B, and C from the floor. I request all delegations to keep their interventions to no more than 3 minutes. Given the special circumstances of this 7th session, may I ask for the Secretariat's assistance with managing comments on agenda item 6, and of course sharing a summary of the discussions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As requested by the Chair, I now invite any comments on agenda item 6 from the floor. Please mention whether your intervention relates to 6A, 6B, or 6C. I recognize the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to speak briefly to 6A. In particular, pointing out to the distinguished participants of this session, document SCAP/CST/2020/INF/12. This is a report on the activities of the Bureau. And we do consider that a considerable amount of important work was conducted. The Bureau is fulfilling a very important function. We would like for the work of the Bureau to be even more conveniently and transparently laid out so that member countries can be in a position to truly see the picture and actually take part in it. In particular, I would like to point out paragraph 5 in the above-mentioned document. In paragraph 5, reference is made to the fact that on the 4th of March there was a face-to-face meeting, on the 4th of March 2019. Now that face-to-face meeting took place in New York. Further, the same paragraph states that this meeting was open to participation of all members of ESCAP. And here we feel some kind of unease or inconvenience because this took place in New York and it was open to representatives of the member states of ESCAP. Of course, we understand that the overwhelming majority of states have their permanent representatives in New York at the UN. We understand that. Nevertheless, we also all understand that there's a distribution of labor amongst the different representatives of the states in New York. And the representatives of the same states in the different HQs of regional economic commissions. So our request would be as follows: for the Bureau to take into consideration this kind of thought, and to not only look to the convenience that is manifest for members of the Bureau, but also the convenience to member states. If the Bureau had had its meeting in Bangkok and had been open to all participants of member countries, of course, then it might have been much more convenient for an open exchange of views with the participation of member states' representatives, taking into consideration the availability of permanent representatives here in Bangkok. I do understand that certain countries are not represented by permanent representatives in Bangkok. Nevertheless, the overwhelming majority of states do have their permanent representative here. And so we think this is an important fact to take into consideration. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, distinguished representative of the Russian Federation. Would any other delegations like to take the floor on this agenda item? I see no further requests to speak. As requested by the chair, I now invite my colleague, Mr. Jan Smith from the Secretariat, to share a summary of discussions on agenda item 6.
In the meeting on 4th of March 2019 that the distinguished delegate of the Russian delegation, the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation is referring to, took place at the site of the Statistical Commission session that year. So otherwise, in I guess that's the answer, right? Summarize. So in summary, the for under agenda item 6A, the committee took note of the request of the Russian Federation to organize face-to-face meetings of the bureau, preferably in Bangkok. And there was no statement under agenda item 6B and no statement under agenda item 6C. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Back to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Serra, Mrs. Robertson, and Mr. Smith. This brings us to the conclusion of discussions under agenda item 6. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, let us now turn to agenda item 7, other matters, and given the special circumstances of this, may I please ask for the Secretariat's assistance within managing comments on agenda item 7, and of course sharing a summary of the discussions. Mrs. Serra, please.
Thank you, Chair. As requested by the Chair, I now invite any comments on Agenda Item 7 from the floor. I see none. So that concludes Agenda Item 7. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much. This brings us to the conclusion of discussion under agenda item 7. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we will now take up the final item, agenda item 8, the adoption of the report of the committee on its 7th session. We have deliberated on a number of issues of significance for this region during this day. I note with appreciation that with the cooperation of the delegations and efficient servicing by the Secretariat, we shall be able to complete all our works on schedule.
Mr. Chair, we still have around 20 minutes to noon, and the plan was to take up deliberations on agenda item 8, the report, starting at noon. So the proposal from the Secretariat is that we take a break for 20 minutes so that all delegations have a chance to review the report carefully, and we will begin our deliberations on the report at 12 noon with the rapporteur, Mr. Dennis Mapa, presenting the report. So the suggestion is that we break for the moment and we reconvene at 12 noon.
Yeah, I have no objection. We'll break now and see you at 12. Thank you.
Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we will now resume our discussions on agenda item 8. That's the adoption of the report. Mr. Chair, over to you.
Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We will now take up agenda item 8, the adoption of the report of the committee on its 7th session. I note with appreciation that with the cooperation of the delegations and efficient servicing by the Secretariat, we shall be able to complete all our work on schedule. It is my pleasure to invite our reporter, Mr. Denis Mapa, Undersecretary, National Statistician and Civil Register General, Philippines Statistics Authority, to present draft report. Mr. Mapa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this time, I would like to remind the members of the committee that the report we are about to adopt contains 5 sections. The first section includes matters brought to the attention of the Commission. The second section is on organization. The third section would involve summary of advanced electronic consultation. Section 4 are items for information, and the fifth section contains the chair's summary. Due to the exceptional nature of this year's session, the proceedings of our deliberation will be addressed as an annex to the report called the chair's summary and will be made available a week after the session. Mr. Chair, I now have the honor to present to you the draft report for further consideration by this committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mapa. Distinguished delegates, we will now consider the draft report of the Committee on Statistics. At this session, I had the privilege of leading the discussions on the agenda item 2 through 7, and you have before you a document SCAP/CST/2020/L.2, which contains the draft decisions that resulted from our deliberations on day 1 and 2 and is recommended for adoption by the committee. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the draft report of the 7th session is now presented to the committee for adoption. Given the special circumstances of this 7th session, may I again ask for the Secretariat's assistance with managing comments on agenda item 8 and sharing summary of the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As requested by the Chair, I now invite any comments on the draft report from the floor. Before we commence our discussions on the draft report, may I kindly remind you that the draft report will be formally edited by SCAP, and so you need not comment on any minor editorial issues or typos at this point in time. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we will commence with section 1 on matters brought to the attention of the Commission. This morning, under agenda item 4C, the committee made a 5th decision, and this will be now displayed on the screen. If you agree with this decision, we will add this decision to the draft report as decision number 5. Are there any comments at this time on section 1 of the draft report, matters brought to the attention of the Commission, and the proposed addition of decision number 5? I recognize the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We will indeed have a few corrections about all 4 decisions that are contained in the document L2. And right now I'm not talking about decision 5 that has been put forth by one of the delegations. May I talk about the corrections and amendments that we have on decision 1, 2, 3, and 4? Or you would like us to go one by one?
Yes, please, you may go one by one.
I meant, will all the member countries feel comfortable if we discuss decision 1, 2, 3, or 4, or we immediately look at all 4 decisions simultaneously? I would like to stress that we have amendments to all 4 decisions. However, if you think it better, I can voice all of them immediately at once.
Distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation, you may express your comments on all the decisions.
Спасибо. Thank you. Decision 1, last line. Before the word committee, we can add the words 7th session of the committee. Therefore, it will read final review and approval by the 7th session of the committee.
То, что касается решения.
That's for decision 1. Now for decision 2, 3, and 4. All our amendments have the same nature for all 3 decisions. And they have to do with the same wording that is used in decision 2, 3, and 4. Therefore, in decision 2, the word modalities, we would like to take it out and change it to draft recommendations. The words review and approval, we also would like to take out and insert the word consideration. Therefore, the phrase will be, the committee decided to advance the mainstreaming of gender in its work. It requests the Bureau to propose, in consultation with the Secretariat and development partners, draft recommendations to that end for consideration by the committee. Decision 3. Same thing. We take out modalities and write draft proposals. Draft recommendations, I'm sorry. Review and approval. We take it out and put consideration. Same thing for decision 4. Exactly the same way. Modalities taken out, change it to draft recommendations, and we take out review and approval, and we change it to the word consideration. Now, I would like to say the same thing as I see it on the screen when it comes to decision 5. In this case, I'm not talking about the substance of the decision itself. I am talking about the systemic questions. So I see that there's the same wording used in this draft decision 5. I would suggest that we take out the word modalities and put in draft recommendation, get rid of review and approval again, and replace it with the word consideration. So far, that's all I have. Thank you on decision 5.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation. May I now invite the distinguished delegate of Japan to take the floor, please?
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we hear you.
So I had the similar question about the decisions, especially decision 2, 3, 4, and 5. I understand the importance of these topics. However, the roles, goals, and actions of the committee, other than global level activities on these topics are not clarified from the Secretariat. Furthermore, no member countries show their opinion to support these decisions in these 3 days nor in advance. I found these proposals of the Secretariat on the seat of the committee. Based on these reasons, I think the second sentence is, it requests the Bureau to propose in consultation with the Secretariat modalities to that end for review and approval by the committee, while bearing in mind the need to stay within existing regular budget resources should be deleted. This is the problem of the procedure, I think. Second, regarding the section 3, the electronic consultations are composed by comments from each country, not the consensus of the committee. Even though some sentences in section 3 were made under the subject of the committee, it may be prior thing, but the number of the countries between the PowerPoint presentations and the draft report. I suppose the report should be correct to accurate description. Third, regarding the election of officers, specific terms of India and Sri Lanka should be identified by each. Otherwise, it would be inappropriate since it would be substantially the same as increasing of the officers for sub-region. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Japan. May I now invite the distinguished delegate of the Islamic Republic of Iran to take the floor, followed by India.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you, sir.
Yes. I just want short comment on first line of decision 5, draft decision 5. And it is, I suggest sentence statistical institution replaced by National Statistical Office and other official statistics institution. Just to emphasize the official statistics institution. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of the Islamic Republic of Iran. May I now invite the distinguished delegate of India to take the floor.
Thank you. India endorses the decisions taken during the meeting and hence support the report. We are sure that active collaboration among all the stakeholders will enhance the efforts of strengthening the statistical system in general and in achieving the 2030 agenda in particular. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of India. Would any other delegations like to take the floor? I recognize the distinguished delegate of Thailand.
Thank you. Can I edit some of the proposed draft decision 5 in bullet number 1? The committee decides that strengthening of statistical institutes, including can you delete training infrastructure and then start from the develop of training, can you insert after the development of training, insert the word and trainee and train of trainers. And after that, can you delete the word regional after program to add days? Delete the word regionals, and then can you insert more after agenda for sustainable development? Insert the word that and increase responsiveness to pandemic such as COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Thailand. One of my colleagues will stop by and take these in writing from you so that we get the corrections. Thank you. Would any other delegations like to take the floor? I recognize the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, about the first part of the draft decision 5. We would like to suggest changing the words be made a priority, even bearing in mind that the word priority has an English article A. Nevertheless, we would like to slightly modify the text and change it to the words should be among the priorities of the committee. That's one. Point 2. I just heard the suggestion of the distinguished delegate from Thailand. And personally, and I would like to stress that I am not a specialist in statistics, but personally, I feel an unease when in our decisions that have to do with strategic, long-term issues of the Commission, we will include COVID-19. Therefore, we narrow down the work towards one single aspect of it. There are various kinds of illnesses and diseases in the world. They come and they go. There are new ones. However, it seems to me that in this exact context, in this point, to talk about COVID-19 in any way, I stress what I am saying here should not be viewed as not giving enough importance to the global efforts to fight COVID-19. Just here, I believe it's not the right place to include it. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation. Would any other delegations like to take the floor on section 1 of the draft report? I see none. May I now invite Ms. Gemma Van Helderen, Director of the Statistics Division, to share a summary of comments received so far on section 1 on matters brought to the attention of the Commission.
Thank you very much. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, during this part of the interventions, we received some comments from our delegate from Japan and the Islamic Republic of Iran on parts 2 and parts 3 of this report. So I will now just summarise the interventions received on part 1 of this report and the interventions made on part 2 with regard to the election of officers, and on part 3 in relation to the electronic consultations. I have noted those from the distinguished delegates, and I will raise those in my summary of parts 2 and part 3. So with regard to part 1, we have on decision 2, I just bring these to your attention on decision 2. I will read the new text. The committee decides to advance the mainstream of gender in its work. It requests the Bureau to propose, in consultation with the Secretariat and development partners, draft recommendations to that end for consideration and approval by the committee, while bearing in mind the need to stay within existing regular budget resources. Decision 3, the committee decides to feature accounting for integrated statistics and analysis in its future work, with an emphasis on sharing country research and experiences and facilitating the provision of technical assistance. It requests the Bureau to propose, in consultation with the Secretariat, draft recommendations for that end for consideration, while bearing in mind, for consideration by the committee, while bearing in mind the need to stay within existing regular budget resources. Decision 4, the committee decides to feature big data for official statistics in its future work, with an emphasis on sharing country research experiences and good practice and facilitating capacity development. It requests the Bureau to propose, in consultation with the Secretariat, draft recommendations to that end for consideration and approval by the committee, while bearing in mind the need to stay within existing regular budget resources. And my apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I failed to reflect a change to decision 1 as well. So I now, I do sincerely apologise. I'll now go back to decision 1. The committee endorses the draft monitoring evaluation framework for the collective vision and framework for action, and the declaration on navigating policy with data to leave no one behind, to advance official statistics for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, subject to amendments suggested by Member States, and final review and approval by the 7th session of the committee. In terms of decision 5, which you have on the screen, the committee, and I will now read out decision 5, and we have put this on the screen so that it's clear for every delegate, either here in Bangkok or on Kudo. The committee decides that strengthening of statistical institutions, including the development of training and training of trainers programs to address skills gaps in line with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and to increase responsiveness to pandemics such as COVID-19. Sorry, I have the language from our delegate. Should be among the priorities of the committee. The committee requests the Bureau to propose, in consultation with the Secretariat, draft recommendations to that end for consideration by the committee, while bearing in mind the need to stay within existing budget resources. That concludes section 1, part 1. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gemma. Would any other delegations like to take the floor at this time? I recognize the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only reason that I raised my flag here is it has to do with the fact that the distinguished representative of the Secretariat in her comments talked about references to other parts of the report and not only the section 1, that's Roman numeral 1. There were also references to sections 2 and sections 3. As far as I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, right now we are looking at the part of the report that has to do with section 1, Roman numeral 1. Why am I saying this? Because we have comments on the section 2. However, I believe that when we talk about it, then we'll be able to talk about it. If that is the case, then, begging your indulgence, when it comes to section 1 of the document, draft decision 5. If you recall, about 5 minutes ago, we said against including the reference, a specifying reference to COVID-19 and all its issues. We do not support including this exact wording into this draft decision. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation. Gemma, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that clarification. I would just like to clarify 3 points. I apologise if I caused some confusion regarding reference to Part 2 and Part 3. One of the delegations who spoke while we had opened up discussion on Part 1 also requested some changes that do not appear in Part 1 but appear in Part 2 and 3. So I just wanted to reassure the delegation from Japan who made some suggestions on Part 2 and Part 3 that I had not forgotten those, and I will address those when we get to Part 2 and Part 3. We are currently on Part 1 of the report that appears on pages 1 and 2 of the draft report that was circulated to you last evening. With regard to draft decision 5, I'd like to clarify, I'd like to respond in 2 ways. The first response is I'd like to acknowledge the contribution of our delegate from the Islamic Republic of Iran, who requested that the reference to statistical institutions in the first sentence of the draft decision be replaced with the national statistical organisations. The second request and clarification from distinguished delegate from Russian Federation was to not refer to the explicit pandemic of COVID-19. So I suggest that the decision 5, the draft decision 5, be amended in 2 further ways. The first sentence will be the committee decides that strengthening of national statistical organisations, including the development of training and the train of trainers programs to address skills gaps in line with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and increase responsiveness to pandemics should be among the priorities of the committee. No change to the second sentence as I had read it out previously. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that clarification, Gemma. Would any other delegations like to take the floor at this time? The distinguished delegate of Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you. I mentioned about Section 3 and the Bureau is because that there are many problems in the procedure in this session. However, our colleagues do not mind, then I would like to concentrate on the decision 5. As I presented, those are the institutions like CIAP, governed by the governing council, and they collaborated with the GIST and networks. So the second sentence of the decision should be defined to considering of the governing council and those networks should be inserted. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Japan. Distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation, would you like to take the floor?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I must admit that I was not sufficiently clear in expressing our consideration on the first subparagraph in draft decision 5. When I referred to COVID-19, I had in mind the overall wording that concerns the pandemic of the COVID-19. We would not like, in this particular text, to highlight, be it pandemics or COVID-19 as such. We think it is out of place here to make any particular emphasis on any particular component or substantial issue as in the context of the SDGs. Consequently, I do apologize, Madam Chair and representatives of the Secretariat. Your wording, which you read out the very last time, remains with a reference to pandemics. And this is my fault. I was not sufficiently clear in putting across my thoughts. But I would like to stress this now. We are against any kind of additional clarifications or specifics after Agenda for Sustainable Development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the delegate from the Russian Federation. So based on these, could I please ask the distinguished delegate from Japan if you could please read out your proposed additions, in particular the reference to the CIAP Governing Council. My apologies for not correctly, I just want to make sure I'm correctly recording your suggestion. If Mr. Sumara from Japan, if you are able to request, thank you very much.
Distinguished delegate of Japan, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. So it would be better to insert about the yeah, I just want to mention about the other stakeholders or other international networks or other governing system should be inserted in the second sentence of the decision 5. I'm not sure what is a good sentence. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished delegate from Japan. The second sentence that everybody sees on the screen there for Decision 5 currently requests the Bureau, I can't read it, the Bureau to propose, in consultation with the Secretariat, draft recommendations to that end for consideration by the committee. The committee is a subsidiary body of the Commission, and the Governing Council of CEAP reports directly to the Commission. So the CEAP Governing Council does not report to the committee. So as we have with the draft decision number as we have with draft decision number 2, may I suggest to our delegation to our distinguished delegate from Japan, that the sentence read, the committee requests the Bureau to propose, in consultation with Secretariat and relevant development partners, draft recommendations to that end for consideration by the committee. The insertion of the word and relevant development partners therefore includes other bodies responsible for training, such as CEAP Governing Council, the Network for the Coordination of Statistical Training. It's an inclusive statement. It includes GIST, which was mentioned by several members during their interactions, the Global Network for the Institutes of Training, Statistical Training Institutes. So by including the phrase, in consultation with the Secretariat and relevant development partners, then this ensures that we consult with the CEAP Governing Council, the Network for the Coordination of Statistical Training, and the Global, and GIST. In relation to the clarification from our delegate from the Russian Federation, I would like to propose, and I'd just like to seek the agreement of our delegate from Thailand who had proposed this insertion. I would like to propose that we delete the proposed addition of the phrase and increase responsiveness to pandemics after the phrase 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So the phrase would then continue to read, I will now read it out in full for the benefit of everyone. The committee decides that the strengthening of national statistical organisations, including the development of training and train-the-trainer programs to address skill gaps in line with the 2030 Agenda, should be among the priorities of the committee. It requests the Bureau to propose, in consultation with the Secretariat and relevant development partners, draft recommendations to that end for consideration by the committee, while bearing in mind the need to stay within existing regular budget resources.
Distinguished Delegate of China, you have the floor.
Thank you. For the method, we discussed the draft of report. From my previous experience of the conferences, this is quite rare. We make the modification through the secretariat, read paragraph by paragraph to inform all the representatives. This may easily confuse the discussion. I suggest the secretariat may collect, including the comments from yourself, concerning the draft of the report, the detailed modifications, comments, and may project them, all the comments, to the screen. Therefore, it will be more convenient for everyone to know its own standing point, and also the comments has been clearly displayed. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of China. And distinguished delegate of Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The delegation of Indonesia would like to also echo the comment from distinguished delegates from China that the discussions need to be reflected on the screen for everyone to see clearly where's the discussion going on and whose input is which. So I think it will make the discussion run smoother. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Indonesia. We are just getting the document up on the screen. Kindly bear with us. While we just make the changes, kindly bear with us for a few minutes. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have on the screen the draft report of Part 1. The screen is not showing what is on my... Thank you very much. So decision 1, the changes are shown in red. The committee endorses the draft monitoring evaluation framework for the collective vision and framework for action, and the declaration on navigating policy with data to leave no one behind to advance official statistics for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Oh, thanks. Subject to the amendments suggested by Member States and final review and approval by the 7th session of the committee. Decision 2. The committee decides to advance the mainstreaming of gender in its work. It requests the Bureau to propose, in consultation with the Secretariat and development partners, draft recommendations to that end for consideration by the committee, while bearing in mind the need to stay within extra regular budget resources. The committee decides to feature accounting for integrated statistics and analysis in its future work, with an emphasis on sharing country research and experiences and facilitating the provision of technical assistance. It requests the Bureau to propose, in consultation with the Secretariat, draft recommendations to that end for consideration by the committee, while bearing in mind the need to stay within existing regular budget resources. The committee decides to feature big data for official statistics in its future work, with an emphasis on sharing country research, experiences and good practice, and facilitating capacity development. It requests the Bureau to propose, in consultation with the Secretariat, draft recommendations to that end for consideration by the committee, while bearing in mind the need to stay within extra regular budget resources. The committee decides that the strengthening of national statistical organisations, including the development of training and train-the-trainer programs to address skill gaps in line with the 2030 agenda, should be among the priorities of the committee. It requests the Bureau to propose, in consultation with the Secretariat and relevant development partners, draft recommendations to that end for consideration by the committee, while bearing in mind the need to stay within extra regular budget resources. This concludes the 5 decisions. Thank you. Oh, concludes my interventions. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. Would any other delegations like to take the floor on the draft decisions?
Okay.
I see none. May I then propose that we adopt the draft decisions as contained in section 1 of the document SCAP/CST/2020/L.2 and orally amend the report to include the 5th decision as was displayed on the screen. I see consensus. So may we now move to section 2 of the report, which is on the organization. Are there any comments at this time on section 2 of the draft report?
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, could I just please share with you on the screen the suggestion of a change that was made in the previous interventions. Under the section on election of officers, the request was to make it quite clear for which terms the sharing arrangement was undertaken, and I propose we make an amendment as suggested there. For Vice Chairs, Mr. Pravin Srivastava for the first term and Ms. Indu Bandara for the second term.
I recognize the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Secretariat, as far as I understand, because we are having this session conducted by the Secretariat, not by a chair or vice chair, if I understand correctly. So I'm saying thank you to the Secretariat for this reason. This is somewhat strange because, after all, a session of the committee should be conducted by the chair or a representative of the chair, a deputy chair or a vice chair. Could we know, could we be apprised of the reason why we are not, this particular part of the session is not being chaired by the chairman or vice chairman?
Thank you very much for that question by the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation. The primary reason for discussing the chair arrangements and the involvement of the Secretariat in this highly different, unprecedented times of holding this meeting through a hybrid of virtual and physical presence was discussed with the chair, and we agreed to invite or request the Secretariat to support him during the deliberations of this committee meeting for several reasons. The first reason was he is not physically present, and neither are any of the 3 vice chairs, or to members of the committee. Secondly, we are dealing with technology that can be, as you've seen over the last 3 days, at times frail. And the connection was not always 100% stable. For this reason, the Secretariat and the Chair agreed to work very closely together, and the Chair at all times has remained on the screen throughout at the request of the Chair and the Secretariat, where possible. You may recall on day one we had some connection issues and the Chair was not physically, it was a black screen in this room, but I've been reassured that he was visible on the platform Kudo. Those were the two primary reasons that we have asked, that the Chair has opened this meeting, opened every agenda item, requested the assistance of the Secretariat, and then the Secretariat has handed back to the Chair to conclude the agenda items and conclude the proceedings of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. I recognize the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation. You have the floor, please.
Спасибо.
Thank you. Distinguished representative of the Secretariat. And for sure, I asked for the floor on a completely different topic. I have a specific consideration concerning an amendment under Roman 2. However, since we are discussing the present item that I just referred to, we're discussing the item under discussion. So the discussion the item that is under discussion is the issue of who is chairing. So that is the item that I wish to address now. I don't particularly want to have a dogfight on this. However, officially I would like it to be on the report or recorded. I would like this to have it recorded, that this kind of conduct of the meeting is not correct. We have a chairman, we have several vice chairs. No reference to the complex conditions of a pandemic can be used as an excuse, nor can they be argumented in that fashion, to the effect that we are modifying the rules of procedure and the working methods. So I would like it to be clearly understood that this kind of thing will be inadmissible in future. Now, as regards my amendment under Roman 2. I'm terribly sorry. No, my amendment is on Roman 3. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation. We have noted the concerns that you have raised. At this point in time, I would just like to remind all delegations that the interpretation services will only be available until 10 minutes past 1 p.m. Bangkok time. So we have just about 13 minutes left for the interpretation services to close. So if our deliberations on the report continue beyond 1:10 p.m., it will be in English only and interpretation will not be available. So would any other delegations like to take the floor on section 2 of the report at this point in time? I see none. So may I then propose that we adopt Section 2? I'm sorry, I recognize the distinguished delegate of Japan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the part 13, about the bureau, I couldn't see clearly from here, but it says the first term and second term. I don't think that is the correct wording. I guess the term is 2 years, and perhaps instead of the first term, it could be amended to read first half and the second half. Yeah, because the committee meets once in 2 years, and I think that is the intention of the bureau. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of Japan. I see no further requests to speak at this point in time, so may I propose that we adopt Section 2 of the report on organization. I see consensus. So let's now proceed to Section 3 of the report, which covers a summary of advanced electronic consultations. Are there any comments at this time on Section 3 of the draft report? I recognize the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation.
Thank you. Paragraph 22. Somewhere around the middle of the paragraph, there is a sentence that says,
the appreciation for the Secretariat efforts on gender mainstreaming and for establishment of data integration community of practice and provided advice. What's this?
we have an amendment here. Advice would be deleted to be replaced with the word guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation. Would any other delegates like to take the floor on Section 3 of the report? I see none. So may I now propose that we adopt Section 3 of the report on the summary of advanced electronic consultations. I see consensus. Let us now proceed to Section 4 of the report, which basically contains a reference to the chair's summary, which is supposed to be available after the session, which will contain the proceedings of this session in more detail. Are there any comments at this time on Section 4 of the draft report, the reference to the chair's summary? I see none. So may I propose that we adopt Section 4 of the report, the chair's summary? Okay, I see consensus. So at this point in time, document SCAP, I recognize the distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation.
Thank you. And with due apologies, you are not finding a consensus, you are finding an absence of objections. And it is very different. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished delegate of the Russian Federation. Would any other delegations like to take the floor at this time? If not, document SCAP/CST/2020/L.2 is now adopted. This concludes the consideration of the draft report. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Now we move to the closing session of the 7th session of the Committee on Statistics. And before I close the 7th session, I'd like to invite Deputy Executive Secretary of ESCAP, Mr. Kawel Zaidi, to make his concluding remarks. Mr. Zaidi, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just one moment with your indulgence, Chair. We have some COVID preparations going on here. All right. Thank you again. So first and foremost, allow me to express the ESCAP Secretariat's deep appreciation to you as Chair, Mr. Gogita Todradze, Executive Director of the National Statistics Office of Georgia, for guiding us so ably through this session. We would also like to thank the newly elected Bureau. This, of course, has not been a routine session, and its substantive outcomes, I hope, reflect the extraordinary efforts of the Chair, the Bureau, and, of course, the participants in this 7th session. As Secretariat, we would also like to thank the outgoing Chair, Dr. Moht Uzir, who is Chief Statistician of the Department of Statistics, Malaysia, and the retiring Bureau members from Samoa, China, Iran, and Myanmar. As all of the exiting Bureau has seen, the work of the Bureau of the Statistics Committee does not end after the committee session, and we have really very much appreciated the year-long support that we have received. We're also very grateful to the 250 or so participants from 39 countries, the UN Secretariat colleagues, UN funds and programs, agencies, and many other development partners and organizations for having taken the time to join us and actively participate in this session, helping us not only to celebrate the last 2 years, but really giving us clear direction for the 2 years ahead. And finally, Chair, with your indulgence, I wanted to, of course, thank my own colleagues in the Secretariat for the hard work, for the preparations. It's not easy to put on a session of this sort in a hybrid format that we have seen, but I hope that the outcomes have justified the time they have invested. The COVID pandemic that has really served in a way to reinforce something that was already clear to most of us as we supported countries to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its Sustainable Development Goals. Without timely, accurate, relevant, and accessible statistics, we are simply flying blind. And there has rarely been a more important time to have this trusted official data and statistics. And for many in this committee, the comprehensive global monitoring framework, comprising of over 230 global indicators, is what makes the 2030 Agenda especially ambitious. But the efforts of national statistics offices and bureaus to deliver statistics is fundamental, and it has been a fundamental part of succeeding with the SDGs and looking forward of building back better in the aftermath of COVID. COVID-19, however terrible that it is, may also be an opportunity to embrace new data sources, an opportunity to bring on board new user groups, new challenges, and so on. Many of you are already at the forefront and sharing your experiences, not just here in the committee setting, but also in the Asia-Pacific Stats Cafe that we have been organizing, and we very much appreciate that. We as a Secretariat will do our best to help you continue with this, to share and learn from each other and to combine forces through regional solutions and regional actions. And speaking of regional actions, allow me to again congratulate all of those involved in the 50-year journey of SIAP that we celebrated during this week. Excellency Chair, let me finish by really reaffirming our absolute commitment to continue to support the national statistics offices, bureaus,
and mechanisms. We very much appreciate your ownership of this committee and its work, and we take great pride at the ESCAP Secretariat to work with you on delivering your ever-growing agenda of statistics for development. Thank you very much, Chair, and back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Zayedi. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of myself, as the newly elected chair of the Bureau, and our current and newly elected Bureau members, I would like to express my sincere appreciation for organizing the 7th session of the Committee on Statistics of ESCAP and for the strong support for our national statistical systems, national, regional, and global levels. From this standpoint, I should be highlighted that the government of Georgia is committed to develop an active cooperation with ESCAP countries, particularly focused on economic relations. We truly believe that ESCAP can play a positive role for regional statistical development and serve as a springboard for our enhanced partnership. Georgia highly values the work done by ESCAP statistical community, from collective vision and framework to regional roadmap for implementing Agenda 2034 Sustainable Development. Furthermore, we are committed to join the process of implementation of mechanisms through the existing regional capacity development initiatives, thematic and expert groups for the improvement of different fields of statistics and the network for the coordination in ESCAP region. To conclude, in spite of all these remarkable developments, continuous efforts are needed in order to foster the effective implementation of advancing official statistics for Agenda 2034 Sustainable Development. Let me once again express my appreciation to the significant work already carried out by the Bureau of ESCAP Committee on Statistics. I would like to assure you that Georgia will continue supporting the Bureau in its efforts to accomplish its tasks on the way of setting statistical priorities. Once again, I would like to express gratitude to all of you for the strong support demonstrated towards my country and to me personally in terms of delivering strong mandate to perform this role of Bureau effectively. I would like to extend the committee's appreciation to the ESCAP Secretariat for the dedication, efficiency, and hard work as well. We would like to thank your staff, interpreters, and all those who made this session successful. Amongst many other things, I'm grateful to all delegations for their participation and looking forward to meet you in person at the 8th session of the Committee on Statistics in 2022. I hereby declare the 7th session of the committee adjourned. Thank you very much for your attention.